The Dust Bowl by Mackenzie Pierce. If that was your first question, the answer is no one. The Dust Bowl was not a football game. In fact, it was much more important than any football game out there. The Dust Bowl was a time in history where the land was so dry it created unbelievably massive storms of dust, ruining homes, families, and farmland. Before we go into too much detail on that, let's go over the location of where it all happened. The Great Plains is miles and miles of flat land. They are located in the westernmost portion of the North American interior plains. This region of land is so large that pieces of it are in multiple states, such as Colorado, Kansas, Montana, Nebraska, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Texas, and Wyoming. During early European and American exploring of the Great Plains region, it was thought to be unsuitable for European-style agriculture. The region was known as the Great American Desert due to the lack of surface water and timber. Settlement was encouraged by the Homestead Act of 1862. With the end of the Civil War and the completion of the first transcontinental railroad, waves of new immigrants arrived in the Great Plains. Due to an unusual wet period in the Great Plains, mistakenly led settlers and the federal government to believe that rain follows the cloud, and the climate of the region had changed permanently. Needless to say, everyone thought wrong about the Great Plains region. Many of the families settled here and started their lives and mostly depended on the land for their livelihood. But as time went on, the Dust Bowl just continued to get worse and worse. That's when black blizzards had started to form. A black blizzard was a bad dust storm that made noon appear to be as if it was raining. Due to these horrible storms, it was forcing people to leave their homes and find somewhere that it was safe to be. At this time is when the term Okie had came about. The Okies are people who ended up having to leave their homes due to the Dust Bowl. The Dust Bowl had destroyed all the land, and making the soil far from suitable for agricultural use. After a while, the Great Plains region became to what someone can call a ghost town. In the Dust Bowl, people had hard times getting food. Sometimes people with no homes went to public parks and ate there. Some parks had cooking areas where people could build fires. People would share with other people, and some would bring a kettle for water, and some people would bring food to boil. People would eat potatoes, hot dogs, or meat stew. When they would start eating, they had to put a plate over the drinks so no dust would get in it. At first, the government had tried to step in and help by giving seeds, money, and equipment, but that just wasn't enough to help the dry era. If the Dust Bowl wasn't enough, Black Sunday hit on April 14, 1935. What was Black Sunday? It was a day during the time of the Dust Bowl. People saw sun and went outside to do chores and go to church. In the middle of the afternoon, a black cloud came quickly. The cloud was full of dust. It was the last major dust storm of the year. It was like any other storm, except much harder. It destroyed 5 million acres of wheat, and family on the road tried to seek shelter and were in dark for hours. Finally, the government stepped in. During President Franklin D. Roosevelt's first 100 days in office, governmental programs designed to conserve soil and restore the ecological balance of the nation. Although that wasn't enough for them. They were getting so tired of seeing dust they decided to take more of an action. Finally, the government of each state decided to get together and develop programs for soil conservation in the Dust Bowl. Farmers even started planting trees to break up the force of the wind. After all the work they did, farmers started planting their fields in ways that would keep rainwater in the soil, and so it would not blow away. The government started to help again. They gave seeds, money, and farmers learned new methods and techniques. The most valuable lesson was to take care of the land. Even though everyone worked really hard to make the land better, there were still some dry spells throughout the 1950s, 60s, and late 70s. Due to the Dust Bowl, our government has gained enough knowledge of how to go about taking care of the land and how to prevent this from ever happening